Hey y'all, hi. I am excited about this video because it's like old school for me. The main thing I'm going to do is tell you the story of Old Gum, which is one of the colors in my collaboration with Salt New York. I've been getting a lot of requests for more of the story behind the colors and the history, and some requests specifically to talk about the journey, like my journey with my creation of the blush shade Old Gum. So I'm going to do that. However, I'm going to try some other stuff that's new makeup, some skincare, a couple of other random and kind of noteworthy pieces of makeup that have launched recently. So I'm going to be doing sort of an old school trying new makeup and sort of a chatty get ready with me with that background information about Old Gum and about the Salt New York collaboration, answering some questions. I'm going to put a couple of links down below. Link to the collab, of course, to Old Gum and the other shades. Link to my book. I always try to put that in the description box. Link to Patreon, because the Patreon has really gotten itself together lately. We've started a podcast, Joe and I. There are ad-free videos over there. There are behind-the-scenes videos. You can join for only $1 a month. I really recommend checking it out. So look in the description box for that. Let's get into the meat of the video. My lips are so dry. I could barely make it through that intro. I'm going to put on a little bit of this. Actually, I'm going to do skincare, and I often just put my face skincare onto my lips. I know maybe it's kind of a strong choice, but I do it. This came from Dia. Beautiful packaging. I think that they recently launched in Sephora. I think that that's why they sent this package. I'm familiar with Instant Angel, which is their rich facial moisturizer. That's this one. I've never tried Air Angel. I think it's a newer launch, and it's exactly what I need right now. Yeah, very lightweight. So this is a gel texture, a gel cream. And I love a gel cream. I need like a heavy moisturizer at night and sometimes as a last step during the day. But I love a gel cream almost as a serum. For someone with dry skin and mature skin, a gel cream functions essentially as a serum layer, but it's easier to handle than a serum, like in a dropper bottle, you know? So I'm doing what I do with serums, which is layer on more. I put it on, it soaks in, and then I put on more. That is really nice. And I had some skincare on already. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to use the thicker one because I'm very curious about this. This is the Super Goop Mineral Matte Screen. I feel like a lot of skincare and makeup products are glowy, and I've been using a lot that are glowy lately. So I have an interest in this, a mineral sunscreen that is matte, kind of as a base, sort of forming a matte base so that I can afford to layer on like a bunch of glowy stuff on top. I want to see how that works out. Oh no, I didn't expect it to have a tint. It says it is a makeup gripping primer that blurs the appearance of pores. Oh, it also says shake well. I didn't do that. Shake well for an air whipped texture. Do you hear that? It's like a chunk is flopping around in there. Okay, so this is actually a primer. The first ingredient is dimethicone. And I can tell just by looking at it, it's promising to be like basically like a Benefit Porefessional. I thought it was going to be more of a sunscreen that had like a matte finish, a powdery matte finish. But this looks like, feels like, and has the ingredients of a pore filling primer, which I don't know if I would want to put enough pore filling primer on my face to be an effective SPF. We'll see. But I also don't know if it's going to feel skincare and moisturizing. My skin might end up actually feeling a little dry. We're just going for it. Okay, so I'm putting it, I just put a little bit on my left cheek, and it is extremely visually effective, right? You can see that. I wish this came in green. Okay, so the amount that I squeezed out onto my finger, you saw how much that was. I've put that all over the left side of my face and my entire forehead and half of my chin, half of my nose. And you can really, really see it. I hope you can see it on camera. In person, it's wild. It's like the side of my face has been airbrushed. It does feel like Benefit Porefessional. It has that dimethicone pore filling primer feeling, but it doesn't feel like it's going to pill, which that's always the risk with that kind of thing, right? That it'll be really pilly. I'm trying to make it pill. I'm really putting it through it. It's not pilling. So that's good. Even with that skincare underneath it, that's kind of an intense substance to have as like a thick enough layer on your skin to provide SPF coverage. But if you really want that dimethicone blurring visual effect, like you want that full on, and you've ever wanted that but with SPF coverage, I mean, Super Goop has made it. So that's just really interesting. I wasn't expecting, it's not what I was visualizing at all when I read about this product. I might end up really liking it. I also feel that the tint is fine. Like it really, especially because I'm going to put makeup on top of it, it sheared out enough. I think it's probably just tinted like this to keep it from having a white cast. And that makes sense. And I think Benefit Professional is this color too. Wow, it feels and goes on unlike any sunscreen I've ever used, and exactly like a lot of pore filling primers that I have used over the years, except for that it has very clearly been refined to the point that it resists pilling. Wild. Well, I think I'm at the point where I can put something on my lips, and it's going to be this. Just a little bit of Lawless Forget the Filler to kind of wake up and plump the skin on my lips and prepare my lips for some Salt New York products. But actually, I feel like it's gonna make my plosives poppy. Yeah, I blotted it way down. Even a very thin layer, though, will do the job that I need it to do. So I'm gonna put on a little bit of green color corrector, the Givenchy, and then my Salt New York Sneaky Balm in N13. And as I do that, I'm gonna start talking about Old Gum. So Old Gum, I have been saying for years. I mean, I think this really started, it's probably been at least 5 years, right? I've been saying that my dream blush color would be the color of Old Gum. And I'm talking about like a blob of Old Gum that got stuck underneath a desk at a school and has been there for 15 years. Or as Philippe at Salt New York said, street gum, right? Gum that's stuck on the street, old street gum. You know what I'm saying. So gum, because it's like old bubble gum, like it was once pink, but it's no longer pink because it's so old. It's like chewed up, faded, so old that it's gray, it's taupe, it's really washed out, right? It's become very, very pale. A pale, faded, chewed up, aged version of its former self, an aged imitation of actual bubble gum. So I was already saying, I'd been saying that, and it had already become a thing. Back when my channel was mostly a beauty channel, like I was really just doing makeup, it was also like before it was my main job. Like it was just, these were like the olden days, okay? It was like the olden days. It just became part of the lore, right? Old Gum, or like looking for Old Gum, the search for Old Gum kind of became part of the lore of the channel. So that's just the green color corrector. And you can already see it's bringing some shine back to the planes of my face, right? So that matte primer is like, sorry, my bangs they're like a little awkwardly long right now. And so it's, what do we do, right? Do we have them here? Do we not? It's hard. I'm just pushing them out of the way while I put on makeup, even though it makes me look even more like I am wearing a wig, which I am not, I promise. So one day I decided to try to mix Old Gum, like to create Old Gum using Salt New York products, because the Salt New York already existed, was already on my radar. I already had a bunch of their products, really loved using them. This is the Sneaky Balm. And, you know, they have this lovely quality of sort of mixability, of feeling simultaneously like real makeup and like art supplies. The gratification of working with art supplies, which I think for a lot of us, that's like one of the main draws to makeup. You know, so it's one of the things that makes Salt really special. And it felt like it really opened the door for me to use Salt products to mix Old Gum. And the other thing is there were those shade adjusters, the blue and the white and red and yellow. And so I was able to really mix like paints. Really, really try to get as close as possible to the dream of Old Gum. So I have this video. It's an overhead shot video of my hands just mixing colors and my voice talking and me trying to mix Old Gum. So I'm putting the Sneaky Balm only on this half of my face so you can see it. So that's the coverage. Pretty light. That's a pretty light coverage. It can be built up, but I really don't need more. And thank goodness for that matte primer. Like imagine if I had had a really glossy plumping primer on underneath. It's almost like what this is done is just the sunscreen primer has really just filled my pores. So now the shiny products are going on to like less visually textured skin. I'm kind of impressed by it. Obviously this is the first impressions, but I'm kind of into matte mineral sunscreen by Supergoop at this moment. So I mixed this shade that was Old Gum, and it essentially was a learning experience for me, but there were things I didn't know. I've learned. There were things that I didn't realize were happening at the time. And doing this project with Kiki, sitting with her while we tried to create the colors, and she was mixing in the way that I did in that video. She had color adjusters, she had base, and she was like mixing color after color after color to try to get at the vision. Doing that with her, I learned some things that I didn't know back in the day when I was mixing my old gum, my original Old Gum. I'll get to that in a second, but what was the fate of that original pan of Old Gum? Many of you have asked in the comments, and I'm here today to tell you what the fate of it was. I still have it. It's right here, looking extremely extremely gray, 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 gray as an elephant. I did not use it as much as I expected to. This is like the true fate. Okay, I didn't use it as much as I expected to for two reasons. One, it just turns much redder on the cheeks than I thought it would based on the color and based on my initial experience with it. You may remember if you saw that video, if you go back and watch it, you'll see that the thing that was wild about this is that it looks like this in the pan. It just looks beige. Like it looks like beige putty. But when I put it on my cheeks and started blending it out, it would suddenly just look like regular blush. It was so crazy. And at the time, I thought that that was because of my skin, my pale olive skin, sort of changing the way that the color looked. I think that's partly true. Right? It's partly true that this color on me ends up looking extremely blush-like, like a natural blush, even though when you look at it in the pan, that's crazy talk, right? That seems like crazy talk. Weirdly, it's almost like it wasn't old gum enough for me, which is so confusing, right? Because it's so weird and so different than anything else. And it looks like it would be so perfect. And swatching it seems so perfect. But then in use, it was like, well, it's actually just pretty pink. You know, it's like turning pretty pink on me, almost as if it was a color changing blush. That's foreshadowing. While I tell you this, I'm going to do my eyebrows with this Infinite Hold Sculpting Brow Tint from Make Beauty in the shade Cool Brown. I really, really like this product and it has been getting me through. I want to dye my eyebrows soon. I also need to like clean them up a little bit. I have a lot of extra hairs growing. My eyebrows have just been popping off lately in all of the wrong places. It's really fine. But this has been getting me through without dyeing them because it's very effective, you'll see. The other reason that I didn't end up using my custom pan of Old Gum blush back in the day, as much as I thought I would, is that it's very emollient, right? I had used Lip and Cheek base, the original Salt New York Lip and Cheek base, and I had used a lot of the Lip and Cheek. I had started with the base, I think, of Cocoa in the Lip and Cheek, and I had used a lot of the Lip and Cheek white color adjuster. And so it was just very glossy. It's very balmy. And I like that formula. I like that original Salt New York Lip and Cheek formula, but not as much as I like the formula that we came up with for the collab, right? Which is more matte, both visually and texturally. Like it's just a little bit stiffer. So I've found myself unable to keep my hands off of the new shades, the shades that we made, because they're so easy, effortless in terms of the texture and the visual effect in a way that this one that I mixed, and I mixed and made it really soft. It's like just extremely soft and gooey in the pan and balmy. And it was just a little bit of a barrier to entry for me. It was harder to use. It made it less likely that I would just reach for it casually over and over again. It was a success in some ways, and in other ways it was not. Like in practical use, it was not a success for one reason that made total sense to me, which was the texture, and for another reason that was a little bit bewildering to me, which was that the color, which was like the color changing aspect of it. I was like, is there no blush? Is there no color on this earth that could be gray enough, could be desaturated enough for me to put on my cheeks and have it retain that desaturated quality and just look like a very light watercolory stainy flush and not look extremely pink or extremely red? And then it sort of just went down in the annals of time. And years later, I connected with Kiki and we started working on an actual Old Gum. So when we got together and we started mixing, I was like, it has to be so gray, so madly gray that it looks absolutely cuckoo bananas and like something you would never put on your face. It has to be the exact color of Pharaoh and Ball Dead Salmon, which is that paint color I used to have on my backdrop. It has to be even more intense than this. And we started with that as a baseline. We started mixing, and it turned out that when I was sitting there with Kiki the first time, and we mixed essentially like a color dupe for Pharaoh and Ball Dead Salmon, and it really did not work, right? It did not work on the face. It was too intense. It was too much, right? And that was a good experience for me because it showed me that you can go too far with gray and that it will not be a blush that one wishes to wear, even if that one is me. We went past the limit. We went too far. And then we started scaling it back. And the most interesting and bizarre thing happened. And we talked a little bit about this in the video that I filmed with Kiki for her channel. I'm not sure if it's up yet, but when it goes up or if it is, you'll see when you watch that. The most interesting thing happened, which is that as soon as we got like onto this side of the line of color, this side of the line between like wearable and totally unwearable with a desaturated sort of grayed out, very pale taupey gum color. As soon as I got on this side of the line and I started applying them to my face and it was like, okay, well, this is feasible as a blush. It was like this color changing thing was happening again, where it would look desaturated. Kiki would swatch it and it would look desaturated on her. And her skin tone is a couple shades sort of deeper and warmer than mine, right? It's still light skin, but just really, really different undertones, more golden and more medium light. She'd swatch it and it would look fine. And then I would put it on with a brush as I do, start sort of buffing it into my cheeks, and it would like turn pink, almost like the dreaded pH adjusting, almost like the dreaded pH adjusting glosses. And I was like, what's going on? Kiki was watching me do it. She was watching me apply it. And she was like, you know, what's happening is that after a while, she realized, she sort of had an epiphany. She was like, the thing that's happening is that red oxide, which is the red pigment that she was using to mix the color. She's like, red oxide is just such a dominant pigment. It's like a bully hiding inside of what looks like a desaturated product. She was like, I'm observing you. She said to me, Hannah, I'm observing you applying it. And I'm observing you buffing and buffing and buffing and buffing because you have to do that in order to get it to sheer out enough to be wearable. Like with cream blushes, for me, that's been my habit for my entire life. I need to do anything else as I'm talking. I have another thing. I'm going to put on, I want to use this Wicked. I've never tried anything from REM Beauty before, but they sent this to me. It's Ariana Grande's makeup. I think I want to wear, that's so pigmented. And this one has kind of a color flip. I really want some sheer sparkle, and I'm not sure that I'll be able to get it. I'll be able to get some sheer sparkle with that. Okay. And I think I'm going to use like that dark green matte, just like to create a little bit of dimension in my outer corner. Just like a very light, I've been enjoying this lately, a very light eye look, like a really subtle eye look. And I have these new brushes from BK Beauty. It's Nikki Rose, the BK Beauty Nikki Rose set that are perfect for what I want to do. Okay, this skinny little flat brush and this dark green. Kiki said to me, I observe you buffing and buffing. And, she was like, I can tell that you just have had to do that your whole life with cream blush in order for it to work with your skin. Because, you have to sort of buff it to the point that it becomes transparent, basically. Buff it to the point that it's like a really, really thin layer in order for it not to be too pigmented on you. So you're doing what you always do with cream blush, which is like buffing it and buffing it and buffing it and really making it one with the skin. But when you do that, you sort of release the beast of the red oxide. Kiki is like a cosmetic chemist and has been mixing colors like this for a long time and also knows a lot about the raw ingredients. She's like, I just happen to know this about red oxide, that if you take a cream blush that has red oxide in it as one of its ingredients, and you treat it that way, buffing and buffing and buffing it into the skin, it's like you buff away the weaker pigments and the red oxide remains, dominates, and it's almost like it almost like changes the color of the blush that you've applied. It's like you end up with a different color than the blush even is, because of the way that you have treated it when you applied it. And this blew both of our minds, right? Because she isn't used to seeing someone apply cream blush with that aggressive of a hand, because she just did. And she was like, oh, I totally get why you're doing it, but I wouldn't have thought of that. And I didn't realize that was a thing, that you could kind of destabilize the color of a blush and compromise it by treating it like that, by buffing it into the skin. But I don't want to stop buffing blush into my skin like that. And Kiki was like, and you shouldn't have to stop. But she was also like, and you also shouldn't have to do that much. Basically, she was like, I see you doing this, and that tells me that we don't just need to make a desaturated blush color for you. We need to put less saturation of pigment into the formula so that it's more sheer, so you can get that color that's one with the skin, lit from within, subtle look without doing so much buffing and without sort of squashing and compromising the formula. But then she was like, but what we also need to do is use a different pigment that's not red oxide. She's like, we need to make this color because we were loving the colors we were getting. This is nice, by the way. I'm only putting a tiny bit on, but I like it so much that I'm sort of loath to add the silver, but I am going to do it. She was like, what we need to do is make this same color, because we really liked the colors that we were getting, but we need to make it with a different red, because there are other reds. I think just red oxide is the one, it was the default. right? So Kiki then immediately set about creating the shade of old gum that we had been working towards, which was, again, like just this side of the line of what's wearable, creating that with something other than red oxide as its main red. And she was able to do it. And then when I started working with that, I was like, oh, this is different. Now, on that day, we were still working with the lip and cheek formula as the base. It was still pretty emollient. We were still working with a higher pigment load because she adjusted the formula and the level of pigment for this collaboration. Like when she went back to the lab the next day, that was going to take longer. We were just trying to nail down the colors. Even with that being the case, even though it wasn't the right formula, was too pigmented, still, I was like, oh, when there's not red oxide in the formula and I start buffing it into my skin, it stays the color that it was. And that we were so excited. We were like, this is wild. We would never have figured this out without each other, you know? And really, we got so excited because it was like a recipe for successfully creating something that is extremely rare. That's something that the very pale among us, or even the very desaturated among us who have like medium to light skin, who are looking for blushes like that, we didn't even know we had to ask for it. This level of concern for the way that color performs on the skin and pigments perform on the skin basically does not exist elsewhere in the makeup creating world, right? It is not what makeup brands are doing. This is not what people are out there doing when they're making shades to release, making new products to release. It's not happening from the ground up like that. So we got really excited. It was like amazing. It was an amazing day, that first day. I am really like into this right now. I'm really into just a tiny bit of soft shadow on the outer corner. I think if I just put on mascara and called it a day, it would be amazing. But we're going to do more than that today because we're in it. Here's what I want to do. I want to put Nimue, my highlight, onto my brow bone with this. This is also the Nikki Rose collection. Look at this brush. It's very pointy. It's like a pointy egg. I've been using this for the highlight and I really like it because I can use the broad side to apply it to my cheeks and then the pointy side to apply it in a more targeted way. I wonder what this brush is supposed to be for. I don't know, but this is what I use it for. I'm just putting this on the brow bone, really highlighting some long hair that I have growing like down underneath my brow. The natural look. Really going for ungroomed today with my brows. It's amazing. Okay, so I just put that on the brow bone for that sort of like water buffed out highlight. I'm going to put this Ariana Grande silver on my lids. Just the tiniest tap. So I tapped it and then I'm going to blend it out and make it even more sheer on the lids. Yeah. It's a little cool tone for me, but it's okay. Oh yeah, actually the cool toned nature of it is showing even with that light application. It's like a little gray. It's interesting. Makes it a little more artistic. Not what I would have chosen for myself, but it is interesting. This can very obviously be built up to be extremely creamy and pigmented. Tapping and then tapping it, it's almost like I kept the micas intact instead of crushing them into that like creamy, shiny application, but it can do either. They seem well formulated. I haven't played with this very much, but they seem well formulated. Maybe I should have gone for this like mixed goldy green one. Actually, yeah, okay, so it's like a blackened gold. No, all right, I'm just gonna put a little in the outer corner. Now I'm ending up more made up than I wanted to be, but it's okay. And actually the way that the green and the like blackened green and the old gold have blended together in this one, I don't know. It just gives me even more respect for this as an interesting palette. It's just kind of interesting makeup palette. I'm not using like whole eyeshadow palettes really that much these days to do things like this, but this one, it interests me. It has my stamp of approval insofar as like a palette like that can be approved of by me right now in my current iteration. All right, I'm going to put on a little bit of mascara, I think, and then we'll play with the new and improved old gum in its final form. I'm using the Kulfi. I still cannot get my bangs to look anything other than dweeby today. I just need to trim them. Okay, I'm taking the 1999 Lash Tint Mascara and the Kulfi Mascara. I am using the brush from the 1999 and I'm getting some mascara on it and I'm going in with that. And I'm going to keep talking while I do this because I'm a professional. So we got to the color. And what I will say is like, this is still really appealing to me. It's not doing that sort of buffed out color changing thing. This is very beige, right? You know, it's like really, it does look pinker though. This thing looks pinker on me than it does in a pan. It doesn't have that like putty gray. But in making the actual old gum for production and sale, we needed something that would be unpigmented enough, like light enough in its pigment to work for someone as pale as I am, because it's hard to tell when it's just me and there's not someone else sitting with me, but I'm just extremely, extremely pale and quite olive as well, like quite olive undertoned. And so it's kind of an extreme situation. Like I'm an extreme situation, but we couldn't make a blush that would only work for someone who is as extreme on that end of the spectrum as I am. We had to make something that fit the definition of old gum, but was relatively flexible, right? Because we were making it for everyone who is remotely light in skin tone and even some medium light skin. So we got to a point where the color was weird enough, different enough from anything else that's on the market, and old gum enough to work for me in the way that it ends up doing, which is that it's like barely there, right? It takes away the blankness that I have right now, but it doesn't even add like the sort of pink warmth or peach. This is like, it goes a little bit of like a gray peach, you know? I just wanted it to be like, bring my cheeks back, you know? So we got to a color that would do that, but would translate to other skin tones slightly different than mine, right? Slightly deeper than mine, slightly different undertones than mine, like would be versatile enough because it's just important, right? It needs to be accessible. I wanted to not make it just for me, but to make it for many of you as well. And the color that we made, that we got to, had all of those qualities without red oxide as its main red, right? So it was stable. The color was stable. So we got that. Then Kiki got back in the lab and started working on the formula and the pigmentation level. And she made that color, but in a much more matte base, a less emollient base, sort of similar to the Sculpt and Bronze from Salt, but not exactly the same, because it is like this, the one that we ended up making is so good as a lip color. It's almost like it was custom made for the lips. It's so good. And she adjusted the amount of color that's in the base for old gum. That was how we got to it. So even compared to like the one that I made, it's so much less pigmented. Like, look at this. They're really different on the finger. Look how unpigmented old gum is compared to old gum. It's just like a really different situation. But here's the kicker, right? Like this is the two of them on my hand, applied in the same way, right? Like buffed out in the same way. They are so similar, right? The effect is so similar. And the old gum, it's like orange compared to the old gum that we ended up creating. And you can see that when they're side by side. You can see that they're like the same shade. Real old gum is sheerer, right? It's less opaque. And the undertone that it has is more of the body. It's gray. It's still gray. Like it's still as taupe as it can be. It's like as grayed out as it can be, but it's like a natural, sexy, real desaturated flush, as opposed to the sort of peachy orange undertone that I just could not kick from the original old gum when I was mixing it myself using all of those old shade adjusters and using red oxide. So it's so interesting, right? It's interesting too on my hand. Current old gum, the actual one, when it isn't getting direct light like this, it almost disappears. It's kind of like the highlighters do. It's like depending on the angle, it really looks like it's part of the skin because the formula is so skin-like, you know? So I don't know if I can show you the way that it does that, but it's like we ended up with a substance that in the pan, I mean, it still looks like pretty grayy, pretty grayed out, but you know, it's a substance that in the pan looks much more like a traditional blush than the completely unhinged old gum that I made back in the day. But on the face, it looks exactly like I wanted this to look and couldn't get it to look despite my best efforts. And that was why I ended up not even really using it as much as I thought I would. So that's the story of old gum. That's how it came to be. I dreamed of a pan that would be kind of off-putting. You know what I mean? I dreamed of something that would be, where people would look at it and they would be like, what? That's so weird. You know, like the color is so weird. And in some lights, it does look that way. Like in some lights, old gum does look that way. You look at it and you're like, whoa. In this very bright light, it looks, again, more blush-like. But I dreamed of something that would be kind of more like this, like, a little bit weird. But what I ended up with, because again, we were starting with the effect, like we were starting with how it would look on, but we ended up with something that looks a little bit less off-putting in the pan, which is ultimately probably good. So there's old gum on the cheeks. It's like it's barely there. It just looks like I'm healthy. Whereas before I looked kind of like I had blanked out my cheeks with makeup. Now it just looks like I'm healthy and I really love that. I am going to put some Nimue on top of it because I just can't help myself. I'm so into it. I love the highlight. And frankly, it makes the cheeks glossy in that way, but it also kind of pushes the color into the skin more. And I really like that. I'm going to put a little Old Gum on the lips as well. I love applying this with a brush, but I also often just scrape a little bit with my nail and put it on and then put it on with my fingers. I'm stopping here to just show you Old Gum on my bottom lip, but not my top lip. So you can really see, because once I have it on all over my lips, it just looks natural. And you're like, is she even wearing anything? Kind of, it looks so subtle, but you can see that it is really a color, right? It is really a distinct shade. I think it's my favorite. It's my favorite right now. When I filmed the launch video for the collab, Waxwing was my favorite. Like that was the one I had been the most into. In the ensuing 2 weeks, Old Gum is the one that I've been wearing the most. I think it's because people were so excited to have Old Gum. And so I started getting drawn to it every day and reappreciating especially how it looks on the lips. It's like the dream lip color. And I will say right now, in case you haven't seen the launch video, which I guess it's feasible that someone's watching this without having seen that, there is a version of Old Gum for medium skin tones and a version of Old Gum for deep skin tones. So the medium version of Old Gum is called Oyster Fig and the deep version is called Corduroy. And those are part of the launch as well, right? So we didn't just stop at making a color that works for very pale and like medium to light skin. We made a version, except that the other two versions, the undertones had to change some to accommodate the way that they would interact with the tones of the skin for which they're designed. So that's why it's not just like a darker, like Oyster Fig isn't just like a slightly darker version of Old Gum or a slightly more pigmented version. It's been adjusted in many subtle ways to make it ideal for medium skin, and the same with Corduroy. So yeah, I mean, if you click through to the site or to my Instagram where I posted a lot about all of these colors, you will be able to learn more about them. And of course, I'll link the launch video as well. So I think that's it. We tried new makeup. The thing I'm the least happy with is my hair. I don't know why I am so frustrated with my hair today. I just feel like it doesn't have enough texture. I need to trim my bangs a little bit and maybe put some product in it. But that is neither here nor there. Let's go through the things that I tested. Everything was great, actually. Dia, amazing, great. I'm really glad they're available at Sephora. A successful small brand that I really admire. The Supergoop, I think that my reaction and my description of it will have made it very clear whether or not it's for you. And there are a lot of people for whom it is not, right? And so I'm not saying that it's like amazing for everyone. It's really niche. It provides a really specific service, but it seems to be providing that service impeccably. And I am curious to know whether I will start using it a lot, because often when I'm getting ready for the day, I'm like, oh, I need something just a little bit mattifying to put as my last step for skincare so that I can then really go in with like the highlighting and stuff, the glossiness. What else? Make Beauty Brows, amazing. It just, adds a little tint shaping, a little bit of fiber brow building. It's a nice, cool brown, very natural looking. I'm really into that product right now. Ariana Grande eyeshadow palette. I wouldn't buy it because I'm not in the market for like a full-on eyeshadow palette right now, but it's clearly good, right? It's like clearly, I wouldn't buy it, but because I have it, I think I'm probably going to use that dark green shade to make a little smudgy wing at the corner of my eyes, probably every day for like the next 2 weeks. Because my favorite iteration of this eye look today that I was creating was when I had only done that and I hadn't done all of the rest. The other shades are clearly functional, well designed, and my eyes, it's a pretty look. It's a pretty look. But I was really into that just very plain, minimal, like little smudge. And, Old Gum, Salt New York Sneaky Balm, Salt New York X HLP, the best makeup ever created, the best of the best. And I hope you enjoyed hearing the full story of the development of Old Gum with all of the surprises that came along the way. I will be back with more storytime content about the Salt New York collab as the weeks wear on. And I hope that you are taking extra good care of yourself so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your working life.